FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
This episode of the Financial Survival Network is brought to you in part by Sandstorm Gold Royalties. Sandstorm Gold Royalties is a different kind of gold company. They purchase royalties on select mining operations and receive a percentage of the revenue in return. Sandstorm now has a portfolio of over 185 gold royalties around the world. See how gold royalties differ from other gold mining investments at sandstormgold.com. That's sandstormgold.com. Sandstorm Gold Royalties trades on the TSX as SSL and on the New York Stock Exchange American as SAND.
Welcome, and you are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz, and today is November 14th, 2018. You know, time goes by, and time waits for no man or woman or any other primate for that matter. So, hey, you better be having fun now. You better be enjoying yourself and just living it up, because who knows? Hey, as always, just be part of the show. It's really simple. Send us an email, kl@kerrylutz.com. I answer all. I'm about halfway through that stack of emails I got while I was away, but I will be returning it, and we'll be going over questions during the shows regularly from now on. I promise you that, as regularly as I can, particularly with our good friend John Rubino. And hey, so it's time for another Triple Lutz report. This is episode number 464. Hard to believe. Man, we're going to be at 500 soon. Maybe I'll have a contest for the 500th one. Hey, special thanks to our good friends Bill, who recently wrote to us. Also, Larry will be sending out the medical hacks very shortly. If you haven't gotten the medical hacks list, 11 medical hacks that Dr. Elena George and I put together yet, then make sure you send me an email at kl@kerrylutz.com. We will get it right out to you. I promise you that for sure. Hey, been getting a lot of questions about the elections, a lot of questions about the economy, where it's heading. Hey, I wish my crystal ball was 100%. I thought that the Republicans would hold on to the House during the election. This election goes down in history for the largest amount of fraud of any election in recent memory. I live in Palm Beach County, and finding government workers who will work, which, if it's not an oxymoron, in Florida it's just pointless. You can't even believe it. So the fact that they're incompetent is no surprise. The fact that they're blatantly corrupt. They're not happy to steal one election at a time. They want to steal 3 elections. The Department of Agriculture Secretary, Florida's office, important office here, because they also process pistol permits, carry permits. That's really the main thing. I guess they give out aid to farmers and who knows what else. The governor of the state, who should be Ron DeSantis, and the United States Senate. They're stealing 3 elections at once. I don't believe it's going to happen. I believe this guy, Whitaker, who Trump has appointed and had every right to appoint and probably should have appointed earlier, he is going to come down on them like a ton of bricks. He's already calling for a special counsel to investigate Hillary Clinton. He seems to be the guy that we need. And who knows what'll happen. Remember, this is a roller coaster. Defeating the deep state, draining the swamp is something that's generational, and you really just can't do it all at once. It takes time, and it's up and down and up and down, and really, it's just a question of how long it takes. That's really it. How long will it take? And I don't know the answer to that, but I know that Trump is not a quitter. He's had his eye on the presidency for years and years and years, and he didn't give up. He was going to run in 2012. Supposedly, Obama threatened him with some kind of bodily harm or indictment. Who the heck knows what these sociopaths are capable of? But the point is, he is the president now. It's a defeat, but he's had so many defeats along the path of victory. Look, the deep state's rejoicing, but they don't know what they're in for. They have no idea what is going to happen next. But we know, because we know Donald Trump. I know him personally. We're not best friends. I met with him for a few hours, but I got the sense of the man. And he's got a certain charm. He's got a great sense of humor, but he's not somebody you want to screw over. All of these people who've screwed him over, both in his party and the Democratic Party, some of them have already seen their fall from grace occur. The rest of them will. I can assure you of that. He is vituperative. He's vengeful. And if you've done him wrong, you are going to pay the price. And all of these people are going to pay the price. I promise you that. Not a question in my mind. You think he's going to take this sitting down? Wrong. Hey, so I wanted to talk about my trip to Hawaii and to the People's Republic of California. So Hawaii, we get there. I'm attending Jason Hartman's Profits in Paradise. It was a blast. I loved it. Enjoyed every minute of it. Jason really knows how to run a show. And I'm going to be working a lot closer with Jason in the future. So in Hawaii, I didn't stay in the main hotel, which was the Westin on the beach. I stayed in the Sheraton. And what greets me when I get there but a strike, a labor strike. These people are pounding. And they tell me, well, we can't clean your room real well and a bunch of other crap, but we're going to waive the $23 a day resort fee. That was so nice of them, wasn't it? And I'll tell you, I gave them the worst review on TripAdvisor. I said in that review that I had not stayed, but seen welfare hotels that had a better guest experience than this place. They never warned us. They've had this strike going on for weeks and weeks. And you know what? It just really blew me away that they could treat their guests this way. It's just wrong. And basically, I'm through with these guys. I gave them the worst review, and my review has already gotten 700 views, believe it or not. The last time I slammed a company on Trip Review was a ferry from Grand Bahama Island to Fort Lauderdale. It was a horrible experience, and that one got 25,000 views and cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars. This one won't be that effective, but 700 views is pretty darn good. And anyway, so the conference was great. There was an economist there. He had all sorts of housing experts. Consensus is we might go into a recession, which is probably good for investor-type properties because more people will be renting. And really, there's a shortage of quality rentals. The number of new homes being constructed is way, way below its peak in 2007. And the number of used homes or pre-owned homes, that sale rate is way, way down. So the demand is there. The potential for good returns is really there. Problem is there's not a lot of inventory. And that's a function of the demand and the fact that less people moving. There's a lot of factors involved there. But this is a great way to put some capital to work. I'm going to be working with Jason as an investment advisor because I do believe in real estate. Some of the best scores that I have made have been in real estate, but it has to be done right. And thanks to Jason and people like him, I've learned a lot more about real estate than I ever knew before. And I understand how the game is played, and I understand the types of properties you need to do these investments. They're really, really special, and they will provide for your retirement. So anyway, if you got any questions, whatever, just drop me an email, kl@kerrylutz.com, and I'll tell you about how it's done and how we can help you. So then we went on to Kauai, and that's where we joined Jason's mastermind alliance. It's called the Venture Alliance. And Kauai was just paradise. We went on a helicopter ride, looked at the entire island. Did you know that in Hawaii, they don't grow any more sugar? The sugar industry is finished because the land got so expensive and valuable. The labor costs got so high, and the competition from Latin American, South American countries for sugar and bananas and pineapples just so heavy that they couldn't make any money at it. So the island of Kauai used to be a wall-to-wall sugar plantation. Now they grow some coffee, the Kauai Gold Coffee Company. There's a couple of organic farms there, but basically it's just unspoiled. And if you have a chance to go there, just go there. We stayed at the Grand Hyatt, which was a gorgeous resort on the water. Just had a wonderful time. Great people at Jason's Venture Alliance, and I'm really honored to be there with him, and that he had me there. Really was just a great experience. So highly, highly recommended. Just go over to Jason's site if you want to take a look at the inventory that's available. Jason believes in diversification geographically. Go to other landlord-friendly jurisdictions where if you got a bad tenant, you can get rid of them. Places like Little Rock, Arkansas, Columbus, Ohio, Jacksonville, Florida. I met Jim, who is the local market specialist there, and he's putting out some amazing product. And you can get 10% cash-on-cash returns if you purchase the right home. That's the key. Got to be smart about it. This is an elevated market, but it looks like it's going to come down. It looks like the appreciation phase of the market is rapidly ending. So could be a great opportunity, especially if you got profits in the market. I mean, if I was in the position of holding large paper profits, I'd think about taking them very shortly. And I'm not telling you to. I'm not a certified financial advisor. Anyway, so then I went afterwards. We finished up. It was kind of sad parting with all these people I'd been with for over a week. So went to California. I needed to take my California Realtors exam, and that was a blast. I studied for it for about 2 weeks before. But where I was in Woodland Hills, right behind the Malibu fires, and they were frightening, I'll tell you. I had trouble breathing in the hills. I literally was 2 miles away from where the place was burning down. When you looked up in the sky, and I'll try to post this on the site, you saw a cloud, a brown cloud over the mountains, and that was the fires burning out of control. They still are, some of them. This was Southern Cal. This was the Woolsey fire. And at night, you would see these huge flames off the mountains. You could see the flames coming off. It was scary. And not like I was in any danger, but where I was staying at my friend's house, I could have been called upon to evacuate at any time. President Trump was critical of California's forest management. He should also be critical of the federal forest management because of the environmental garbage and endangered species that don't exist anymore. Logging, forest management in California has kind of come to an end. Less than half the number of employees 20, 30 years ago who were working in the forestry industry are working there now. The only way you can properly manage forests is allowing responsible logging from the paper industry and the wood industry. As a result, we don't harvest enough wood anymore because of the environmental wackos. Therefore, the stuff overgrows. They won't let them do controlled burns. There's not enough government workers to do this. A large part of a forestry company, a paper company like International Paper or Kimberly-Clark, what they do is not just cut trees down, but trim the forest, get rid of the fuel, the kindling, and thereby cut down on the number of fires. What we're seeing now has nothing to do with climate change. It has everything to do with irresponsible management and an extreme environmentalism brought to an end. I mean, we got all these forests that can't be touched. I'm all for allowing the virgin forest first growth to be there. I don't want them cutting down redwoods. I don't want them cutting down sequoias, giant redwoods. That's disgusting. But Look, to manage the forest, you've got to cut trees and you've got to get rid of the overgrowth and you've got to do controlled burns. There's no other way. So Trump's timing, bad, but his message, very true. California cut back on their forestry management program. So did the U.S., too, for that matter, under his budget. And I don't know that he was behind that or not. Not right. If you don't want these fires to burn out of control, you got to take preventative measures to stop it. 20 years ago, we didn't have fires like this because the areas were being actively logged. So anyways, enough of that. So I go into the real estate exam, and I am by far the oldest person taking it. There were about 20 of us, anyone from like less than half my age, early 20s to mid 30s. But I had 15 years on the youngest person there, or the oldest person, rather. I had 15 years on them at least. And I practiced. I didn't read the material, I will tell you that. Having been a lawyer for 30 years, I kind of know the basics of real estate, handled closings, handled foreclosures, handled execution sales, all these things. And I'm not bragging here. It's just, it was an ego boost, and I will admit that. But I went into the exam, and you had 3 hours. I was done after an hour, and I could have just left then. But I said, I should just review every question because I do have a tendency to race through things and make mistakes. And I corrected 3 or 4 questions, but I knew that I had passed it. Finally, with a little bit more than half the time left to go, I hand in the exam, and a person right behind me came because he probably didn't want to be first. But I basically walked out of there first. I knew I'd passed it. Get the score back. Sure enough, I passed the exam. Felt really, really good. I don't mention this as bragging about my accomplishments. To me, becoming like licensed to sell real estate is not a major accomplishment in life. Although, if you have no legal background and you don't understand these concepts, it can be a very difficult test. And I'm not belittling those people, but having the legal background makes all the difference. It just felt good that my mind, hey, I'm 61 now, going on 62, that my mind could still be clear enough that I can still learn new concepts, that I can still study and keep my mental acuity intact. That is tons of fun, just feeling that self-esteem from a job well done. And it's everyone who does a job, who solves a problem, who can make a difference. If you are studying for something or working to achieve a goal and you achieve it, right after that, there is a marked increase in your self-esteem. Then you have to go on to the next project, the next project, the next project, and the process repeats itself. So I love what I do. There's nothing else I'd rather be doing than what I'm doing now. Hey, if I can help people with their investments. So many of you have become investors with Jason Hartman that I felt like, I feel better just at being your advisor, your point man, because you found me. You found Jason through me, and I would just as soon help you handle your investments. A little bit of profit in it for me. I won't say that that's not a motivating factor, but it isn't the motivating factor. I really want to see you guys succeed and diversify out, get some meaningful real estate exposure. I'm not going to over-lever, and you're not going to buy properties that don't cash flow. Key to any investment is you got to have ready, sustainable cash flow. Otherwise, anything else that doesn't give you a fixed rate of return or a stable rate of return will wind up being speculation. And that's the difference between investment and speculation. So a couple of questions here we should definitely get to. So David writes, and really interesting letter, David G. I listen to your podcast often, and I very much appreciate all that you do. I want to disagree with you and many out there on China/trade situation. I think this is a significant point that most don't seem to acknowledge. Trump's rhetoric about the U.S. losing jobs to China is true, but it is not in large part due to U.S. manufacturers. But is it not due in large part to U.S. manufacturers that decided to move their manufacturing offshore or adding manufacturing offshore to reduce costs. Also in the case of NAFTA. Additionally, these same companies have given China their intellectual properties freely to gain access to the Chinese markets. So additionally, you mentioned that we've been in a trade war with China for 20 years, but I would argue that, again, big business in the U.S. has made hay by offshoring. This is very true. And he says kudos to Trump for trying to do something about this, trying to bring back manufacturing and lower the trade deficit. Like, I'm not overly concerned about the deficit, although we need to be, because it will eventually break the currency and the country. And that's what's been happening. Look, it's not right for any country to hold their market at ransom, the price of which is giving up your intellectual property so that they can appropriate it and use it for things to do you in and the country. Okay, we've been in this economic war, but our big companies have, in search of profits, will always sell out the country. Whether it's selling armaments to our enemies, happened throughout history. Big business doesn't care about the country. Big business is transnational, and they view it as their God-given right to maximize profits in any way possible, regardless whether it hurts the U.S. or helps China. They don't care. On the other hand, I won't deny that big business here has gone out of their way to fail, especially in Detroit. The auto industry, often made substandard products much better as of late. The auto industry has done major harm to itself. And labor union fraud, overtime fraud, clocking in when you're not really there, all these things have helped throw the auto industry to the wolves. So Trump demanding reciprocity, but, I'm free trade. I'm a free trader. But we didn't have free trade. We have never had free trade. So if we don't have free trade, what do we have? And what we have is this thing of negotiated trade agreements, all right, that express as their intent to further free trade. But in reality, there's no free trade here. Let's face the facts. Free trade does not exist. In any event, that is it for this show. Questions, comments, just email me, kl@kerrylutz.com. By the way, we're going to be switching our podcast server. You're not going to notice it, but it's going to be great for us. It's a very much streamlined interface, much better than what we've been doing here. And you should be happy with the result. If you want to subscribe to the podcast, and that's what you're listening to now, you could do it through iTunes. Just go to the iTunes store and search Kerry Lutz or Financial Survival Network. I will come up. You could subscribe to Viral Podcasting too. Don't forget our good friend David Morgan's show, The Morgan Report. We produce that for him. David's a great guy, really good friend, and has done so much for the show over the years that I felt it was the least I could do was help him launch his podcast. Our good friend Rick Ackerman will be launching a podcast imminently, and we're going to help him do that as well. So anyways, that is it for today. If you haven't subscribed to our newsletter, go to the site now and do it. Got a couple of articles coming out that you're really going to want to see. The death of cryptocurrencies is top and center. Trust me, in a few years, if cryptos actually present a threat to the prevailing order, that means to the government's right to issue fiat currency or its ability to do so, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies will cease to exist in less than a week. And I will tell you how it will be done. You're going to be amazed. But the fact is, it will happen. And it'll happen a lot sooner than you or I expect. Anyway, that's it for today. You've been listening to another Triple Lutz Report. Kerry Lutz signing out.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.